Hi everyone. Hope you're having a good week thus far. Hope you had a good weekend. Just wanted to go over a little bit of week two, move on to week three, and go over a couple of quiz questions that were missed in the class. So this past week we talked about external environmental analysis. So analyzing that external environment more broad than just competitors. We'll talk about that this week. That would be part of an external analysis, but more broad than that. You want to be looking at the regulatory situation, the economic situation, social situation, anything that could impact your business from an external standpoint, which could be anything. And hopefully that's one of the things that you kind of took away from that. It needs to be very comprehensive analysis when we're looking at the external environment. We also, everyone hopefully was able to do their stakeholder map. I'll be getting to grading those here shortly. Well, actually, probably not until tomorrow or the next day. But then also final topics. So I will go through and give you feedback on your final topic selection. Like I mentioned last week, if you want to make a change, you're not finding enough information on your topic area, please just let me know. I don't have a problem with that. But the purpose of making the selection in week two is so that you can take some time to work on this project. It's a pretty comprehensive project. It is due in week 7. If there are things, if you want some help, if you want me to review something, whatnot during this process, please just reach out. That's what I'm here for. So, but within the next day or two, I'll be giving you feedback on your topic selections, and hopefully that'll be helpful. So for this week, in week 3, move this over here. We're actually looking specifically at competitor analysis. So where are the competitors within our service area? We're going to look at that level of analysis. In the discussion, we're going to be talking about Porter's 5 Forces framework. It is detailed in the text, but one of the things about Porter's 5 Forces, especially when we're looking at a competitor analysis, is that it can provide us a higher level of insight than a SWOT analysis could. So oftentimes when we're doing these types of analyses, we'll do a SWOT analysis. Okay, where are our strengths? Where are our opportunities? But then on the flip side, where are our weaknesses and threats? So where are we good? Where are we bad? Where can we improve? So that'll really be how we look at a lot of these analyses. Porter's 5 Forces actually kind of takes that to a more finite level, in this case for competitive analysis. So it's a little more detailed. It provides us with a little bit better data for what we're looking at when we're looking at these things. It can be used for other things as well, but specifically we're talking about what are those competitive forces in the service area. That'll be our discussion this week. We do have a case study to look at this week. The PDF is the case study itself, and the document, the Word document, are the questions. And I do apologize. Unfortunately, the class is quite small. So normally I assign 4 students to a group, and we usually have 3 or 4 groups. And in this case, unfortunately, we only have 4 students across the whole class. So hopefully it'll be helpful for you to work together. I apologize, Andrew. I dropped an L on your name. I'll go in and fix that. But so hopefully you'll find it helpful to work together. We do have another group assignment in this class, and I'll flip-flop the groups. So we'll have 2 different sets of groups, so everyone will get to work with everyone throughout the class. But in this case study about the Community Blood Center of the Carolinas, and then some questions associated with that. So any questions, please let me know. Only one person should have to submit the assignment. When one person submits, it will populate everyone assigned to that group, or it'll populate the other person assigned to that group. So that is that. We have a quiz this week as well. So let's take a look at the quiz questions from last week, so we can go over some of those. So first question, the service area of a doctor's practice is defined by patient preferences and the available medical providers. So this would be true. And what's important about when you're thinking about the service area of a physician practice, or even a facility for this matter, is you really need to be thinking about the patient as a consumer. So the patient as a consumer, they're going to make choices on where they seek care based on their preferences. So I'll use myself as an example. I used to live in Binghamton, New York, which is upstate, about 2.5 hours from New York City. The level of care, the quality of the level of care in the Binghamton area is on the lower side. It's kind of what would be considered a Rust Belt city. There's there's a great university there, Binghamton University, but outside of that, the people aren't running to get to Binghamton. So the fact that people aren't running to get to Binghamton, they're actually going out, flocking out of there in droves, means that the best providers are also not coming there. Binghamton University does not have a medical school, so we don't have that ready-made population of new providers. And it's just not a place that a lot of folks are wanting to come to right now, sadly. It's where I grew up. I lived there my entire life until I moved here, but it's sad, but it's true. So the service area of the providers in the Binghamton area is the Binghamton area. It's fairly limited. However, for myself, I have lupus, which requires me to have a fairly high level of care. I also have migraines, severe migraines, that the folks the neurologists in the Binghamton area couldn't manage. So we started seeking care in New York City. So 2.5 hours down the road in Manhattan, I sought care from a rheumatologist and a neurologist. So, here they are. I saw a rheumatologist and neurologist in Binghamton, and their service area was Binghamton. I see the rheumatologist and the neurologist in New York City. They work at one of the best hospitals for these particular ailments, Hospital for Special Surgery. The neurologist that I saw is actually one of the lead neurologists working with the NFL on concussions and brain injury. So these physicians in the same specialty as the ones in Binghamton, their service area is the entire United States. It wasn't uncommon for me to be there that day and sit in the waiting room waiting to go in and talk with other people and have somebody from Minnesota and somebody from California and see NFL players wandering in and out that I recognize that played for teams in Texas and in Arizona and whatever. So their service area very broad. Because of patient preference in that case. The other issue is available medical providers. So I'll use again my example from Binghamton. In Binghamton, we had things like orthopedic surgeons and neurologists and neurosurgeons and any specialty you could think of, general specialty. But what we lacked are those subspecialties. So we might not, we'll have an orthopod, but we won't have an ankle surgeon. We won't have a hand surgeon. We won't have a pediatric orthopod. We won't have a pediatric rheumatologist. Those folks didn't exist in the Binghamton area. But you could go an hour and 15 minutes north to Syracuse, which is where I worked for a good amount of time and where I did my undergrad. But you could go an hour, 15 minutes north to Syracuse, more of a hub of healthcare, and you can find all of those specialists. So the practice area of, say, a pediatric rheumatologist in Syracuse, New York, is quite broad because of the available medical providers of that specialty. There aren't that many. So their practice area is going to stretch all the way down to Binghamton. It's going to stretch at least halfway toward Albany, where you might find others. It's going to stretch at least halfway toward Rochester, where you're going to find others. It's going to stretch up toward the Canadian border. Actually, it's probably going to go all the way to the Canadian border. So based on the number of providers, the service area can be much more broad. And then obviously it also can be based on patient preference. So hopefully that was a long answer to a pretty simple question, but I just wanted to make sure you can understand both of those pieces. And when we're doing external analysis, it's really important for us to dig into all of those little pieces to make sure we're picking out, where is our service area and who's within that service area that is competition to us. Okay, expert opinion can be solicited with which of the following methods? So the methods noted were nominal group method or nominal group technique, brainstorming, the Delphi method, and all of the above. And in this case, you can solicit expert opinion through all of those. So nominal group technique is really, we've actually used that at RMU in some of our team meetings because the team meetings tend to be big. And you'll have people that dominate, and this is group work. It won't be with your group work because your groups are so small, but when you're talking about a large group or even a mid-sized group, there will always be people that will be, the extroverts of the group right out there, making sure that everyone hears what they have to say. And then there will be other people that have great things to say, but aren't as extroverted. They're not going to be pushing the agenda to get their work out there. Nominal group technique involves everybody in the group kind of writing down their ideas about a topic, ranking them, and then choosing which one is the best. And then sharing that with the group. And there's usually a points system associated. We've done, like I said, we've used it at RMU in our team meetings of the entire school. And it's been helpful. You talk with people and you write down how many points you associate with that thing. It's kind of a neat way to get everyone's opinion on something. Obviously, brainstorming, certainly a way you can get expert opinions. The Delphi method is interesting as well. It involves people kind of being surveyed, a group of experts being surveyed on a topic, discussing their individual thoughts on a topic, and then there's kind of a period where you can share information that was found in that initial discussion. So all of the experts will hear what all the other experts had to say, and then there's another kind of session reviewing that same survey again. So that you can see if there was any impact on people's decision making based on what they heard from other experts on the topic. So it's a good way to sometimes, especially if we consider ourselves an expert on something. I actually used to work as a subject matter expert in the medical coding and compliance realm. And so I worked in my little bubble. I'm a pretty open-minded person, so I always tried to be open-minded, but sometimes you're in your silo and working along. And when we would go to team meetings, we telecommuted. So when we would go to a team meeting all in one spot and have even a brainstorming session on something, a lot of us would, all of a sudden that light would come on. Oh my gosh, I never thought of it that way. So that's why we do these brainstorming, groupthink. Well, groupthink is a bad term, but team thinking. Groupthink tends to be the bad side of that, where all of a sudden everyone in the group has the same idea, whether it's good or not. So what we want is team thinking. We want people to be sharing their own personal ideas, standing up for them if they think they're accurate, and working together to find out all of the good information on a topic. So all of these methods and more can be used to solicit expert opinions on things. So that was it for our quiz. We don't need the calculator. There we go. So we'll hop back over here for a minute. Like I said, we have our Flipgrid this week. We have the group case study. We have a quiz. We have this ed puzzle. Normally with group work, I do a self and peer assessment. So I would have you fill out a document that assesses your work in the project, that assesses your colleagues that were in your group and their work on the project. And I do use those to complete grading. I actually started doing it at the graduate level, but I found that generally graduate students are pretty responsive and do their work, perhaps more than an undergraduate. Sometimes there's somebody that will fall off at the undergraduate level. Because the groups are so small, I won't do that. I won't have you fill those out, but I will say if you have some problem with your groups, please just let me know if there's somebody that's a non-responsive or whatever. But the one thing, and I just had to go through a 15-minute discussion of this in one of my undergrad groups that had a group assignment last week. The purpose of group work is so that we can practice being part of a team. And we're always going to have different roles on our team. Sometimes we'll be a leader. Sometimes we'll you just be a team member. But we always need to put forth our full effort in the team. And I will say that the expectation is that you're communicating with one another. So for example, I'm just going to pick on names because I have some here in front of me. But let's say Lauren is planning on completing her works during the week, Monday to Friday, because this weekend she's going out of town for a family event. But Kara is busy. She's working, 4 12-hour shifts this week and simply can't work on it until the end of the week. Well, we might know that in our little silos, but it's important that you're communicating with one another. Typically with group work, everyone's got to bend a little bit. We all need to compromise. So in that case, maybe, you'll break up the work and then talk about it maybe on Friday when you're both have a little bit of free time, or you'll work via email back and forth. I was always in group work. I mean, I am not that far removed from doing these types of things myself. I just earned my doctorate a few years back and did a lot of my coursework for my doctorate. I went to Creighton University in Nebraska, but But I actually lived in New York at the time. So although I would go out there once a term for a residency, I did a lot of my coursework just like you guys are doing it. So what it's really about is communicating with the people in your group, setting up expectations at the beginning of the week, and making decisions on what you're going to do, and then move forward. I know that group work it's some people's favorite thing to do, but unfortunately for the majority of people, it's not their favorite thing to do. So I just ask you to work together. I don't anticipate any problems, but because I just had some significant problems in another class, I just wanted to mention it. And if you do have an issue, please just feel free to reach out. If especially if you're not hearing from someone that's in your group, I would always want to be, sorry about that, I would always want to be making sure that folks are okay more than anything else, not hounding them to do their work, but just make sure that you're okay and nothing horrible has happened and that there's nothing that we can help you with. So please, work together. Small groups shouldn't be too big of an issue, but if you have any problems, just let me know. And then we have our quiz and our ed puzzle. I already talked about that. So that's it for this week. Hopefully you'll enjoy learning about the competitor analysis. We're going to be in next weeks to come. We'll be looking at internal analysis. So how do we analyze ourselves? And ultimately, what all of this is about is taking all of this information and building strategy based on it. Where are our weaknesses? Where can we move forward? Where can we build a greater service area? Where do we not want to spend money on these things because someone else has got it covered and it's going to be a hard nut to crack? So let's back off there, but let's move into this other marketplace where we can really do some good work. So that's what it's about. Any questions, please let me know, and I look forward to seeing everyone in the discussion. Thanks.